Have you ever heard a voice so powerful that you assumed you already knew the person behind it? Here's the twist. One of the most unforgettable voices from The Greatest Showman did not actually belong to the actress many viewers thought was singing. Behind Never Enough was Loren Allred, a singer whose voice became part of a global movie phenomenon long before millions of people knew her name. And once you discover what happened before and after that song, her journey looks completely different. Loren Allred was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in a family where music was already a major part of life. Her mother, Carol Allred, was a singer, while her father, Brady Allred, was a conductor. Loren grew up surrounded by vocal performance and musical training, eventually developing ambitions of her own. But having a strong voice is one thing. Turning that voice into a career is something else entirely. Before Hollywood, before The Greatest Showman, and before Britain's Got Talent, Loren had to navigate the same uncertainty that many aspiring singers face. She had talent, but she still needed the right opportunity. That opportunity first came through television. In 2012, Loren appeared on the third season of The Voice in the United States, joining Adam Levine's team. For a young singer, appearing on a nationally televised competition watched by millions could have been the beginning of a major career. But Loren did not win the competition. Her journey on the show ended before she reached the finish line, and there was no instant transformation into a major recording star. At that point, it would have been easy to assume that her biggest television opportunity had already passed. But Loren's story was nowhere near finished, and the next opportunity would come from a completely different direction. Then came The Greatest Showman. When the film was being developed, Loren was brought in to provide the singing voice for the character Jenny Lind, portrayed on screen by Rebecca Ferguson. That distinction is crucial because it explains the mystery surrounding Never Enough. Rebecca Ferguson played Jenny Lind in the movie, but Loren Allred performed the vocals heard in the song. So when audiences heard those enormous high notes and emotional runs, they were hearing Loren. The actress was delivering the performance visually, while Loren's voice supplied the singing. And then Never Enough took off. The song became one of the most recognizable tracks associated with The Greatest Showman, while the movie's soundtrack became a major commercial success. Suddenly, Loren's voice was reaching an audience far larger than anything she had experienced on The Voice. But there was an unusual problem. The song was famous. The movie was famous. The character was famous. Yet the singer behind the recording was not equally recognizable to everyone listening. Loren had achieved something that sounds almost impossible in modern entertainment. Her voice could be famous without her face being equally famous. That disconnect is what makes her story so fascinating. When audiences watch a movie musical, they naturally connect what they hear with what they see. If a character performs a huge song on screen, viewers usually assume the actor is providing the vocals. In Loren's case, the reality was different. She was the vocalist behind the recording, but she wasn't the person audiences were watching during the scene. There was no need for a conspiracy or a hidden scandal to explain it. It was simply part of how the production created the finished musical performance. But the result was unusual. Millions could recognize Never Enough without recognizing Loren Allred. For Loren, that meant her biggest opportunity also created a strange kind of anonymity. Her voice had traveled around the world, but her identity hadn't necessarily traveled with it. She had contributed to a huge Hollywood production and helped create one of its defining musical moments. Yet many listeners could still hear the song without knowing the woman behind the vocals. In a traditional music career, the singer's identity is usually inseparable from the song. Loren experienced almost the opposite. The song became the star first, and the singer became known later. Years later, that changed when Loren stepped onto the Britain's Got Talent stage in 2022. This time, there was no fictional character between her and the audience. There was no movie storyline and no actress representing the performance. There was just Loren, her voice, and a room full of people waiting to hear what she could do. She introduced herself and explained her connection to Never Enough, immediately giving viewers a reason to pay attention. For anyone who remembered the song, the moment carried an extra layer. The voice wasn't mysterious anymore. There was finally a face and a name attached to it. Loren's audition quickly became one of the standout moments of the season, and Amanda Holden pressed the golden buzzer for her. That moment brought Loren a fresh wave of international attention and introduced her to an entirely new audience. But here's the part that often gets overlooked. BGT did not discover Loren from scratch. She had already been through The Voice. She had already built professional experience. She had already contributed vocals to a globally successful film. What BGT provided was something different. It gave millions of viewers the opportunity to see the singer behind a voice they may have already known. And that changes the way you look at her entire career. Loren's journey wasn't a straight line from unknown singer to famous performer. It was a series of opportunities that arrived at different times and produced very different results. The Voice gave her exposure but not a victory. The Greatest Showman gave her a global song but not instant universal name recognition. Then Britain's Got Talent connected The Voice, the face, and the story in a way that previous opportunities hadn't fully achieved. There is also a bigger lesson hidden inside Loren's experience. Entertainment careers often look simple when viewed from the outside. A singer appears on television, gets discovered, releases a hit, and becomes famous. But real careers rarely work that way. Sometimes an artist can be part of a huge success while remaining outside the spotlight. Sometimes the world can hear your talent before it knows your name. And sometimes the opportunity that finally makes you recognizable arrives years after the moment that technically made you famous. That is exactly what happened with Loren Allred. Before many viewers knew her from Britain's Got Talent, she had already contributed one of the most memorable voices to The Greatest Showman. Before that, she had already taken a chance on The Voice. And before either of those moments, she had spent years developing her voice and pursuing a career in music. BGT may have introduced Loren to millions of people, but it didn't create the talent that made those moments possible. So the next time you hear "Never Enough," listen to it differently. The voice behind that performance wasn't simply a background detail in a famous movie. It belonged to Loren Allred, a singer whose journey included setbacks, unexpected opportunities, a global film hit, and eventually one of the biggest stages in British television. The world heard her voice long before it fully knew her name. And perhaps that is the most surprising part of Loren Allred's story. She didn't become powerful because Britain's Got Talent gave her a voice. She arrived there with a voice the world had already heard. BGT simply helped the world finally connect that voice to the woman behind it.